gracious good day to one and all once again. 'Tis I, Norton the First, by grace of God, Emperor of the United States and Protector of Mexico, back with you all once again for episode number 144 of Emperor Norton's fantastic history vlog. Today is September 22nd, 2020. It's our 187th day under COVID-19 restrictions. Today's show is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do. If you've been a fan of this show and watched it since the beginning, you may have noticed a number of references to the Dowager Empress. I'm going to step out of character because I can't do this completely in character. Anyway, the Dowager was my mother, Laura Amster, and she passed away last night at the age of 100. Made it to her 100th birthday on June 6th. She was probably our biggest fan, not just on this vlog, but in general, and watched this vlog every single day, every episode. It was the highlight of her day to see it, and she'd sit in front of her iPad and couldn't wait to see it every single day. So we are dedicating this episode today to her memory and tell a bit of her life story. The creative side of me, I have numerous sides. Some analytical and likes to do research, and some of it is being a ham and a performer, and a lot of that comes from my mother, certainly the performer side and the research side. My father was an engineer, but my mother was very creative. She painted, did enamel jewelry, those shag rugs in the 1960s. She always had some little artistic project going for a number of years, and she'd want my epaulets to be perfect. So I think she was a frustrated actor herself, and so sort of lived vicariously through me in terms of that. And that was fine. And I'm glad she was able to see me do some of the things. So let's do a little bit about her life story. Laura Stark Lefkowitz, or Lake, long story, better known as Lake, was born on June 6, 2020 in New York, and spent her childhood in Highland Falls, Newburgh, because my grandfather was one of the base barbers at the West Point Military Academy. So she basically grew up there. She was probably one of the only people who was there all the time, because the classes come in, spend their 4 years, and move on. But she was always there, one of the few girls on campus, so apparently she dated quite a bit. Had her pick of many, many handsome cadets to date. Really looks upon those years very fondly, and that's where she wants her ashes scattered, is at the West Point Military Academy, and we're doing our best to fulfill those wishes. She was always a lefty. Oh, was she a lefty? Even at a very young age, she sold a peace flag to the commandant of West Point. And that pretty much set her on a lifetime path of being associated with left-wing politics. She was a very classic Roosevelt Democrat and really believed in the good of people and that they could make a difference. And she did her best to do that. I'm kind of skipping ahead a little bit, but in terms of her politics, I know she ran for Orange County Central Committee of the Democratic Party once or twice, did not get there because of it wasn't the Central Committee. It was to be a delegate at the 1968 and 1972 conventions for the Democrats, because all of her efforts were put into the 1968 and 72 campaign to elect Senator Eugene McCarthy president. And she basically ran the Orange County campaign with a lot of help from other people, and staffed the office for the entire campaign without ever, to the best of my knowledge, having set foot in it. She suffered from agoraphobia tremendously in that period. Later on, dealt with it, got over it. We'll talk about that more. And so she basically stayed at home and ran the office, got it staffed constantly. From her office was her bed, and she had 2 3x5 file card boxes filled with names, and kept the office staffed. Side note, Eugene McCarthy won the California primary in Orange County against Robert Kennedy. And that was one of her proudest moments, and probably the greatest thing that she did in her life in terms of making a difference in society. She married my father, Alvin Amster, in 1941. He then shipped off to the war, World War II, serving in the South Pacific. Came back after the war after being stationed in China, and they bought a house in Mar Vista in West Los Angeles, where they lived from 1946 until kind of sketchy on this, but I believe 1962. And they were founders of Temple Isaiah in Los Angeles to help get that congregation going, and I believe served on their board of directors for a number of years, although my parents were not particularly religious. That's me. I'm the one who is. So then my father was working at Douglas Aircraft in Santa Monica during that period and got transferred to Long Beach when the DC-8 program began. And so we then moved to Westminster, where we lived from 1962 to 1970 to make my father's commute a little bit shorter, and it was very close to the Long Beach plant. And that's where she got involved with the McCarthy campaign. We had a 6-foot tall, or was it 8 foot? I don't remember. McCarthy daisy on the front of our house. And that's a pretty conservative area. So we were kind of out of step with the rest of the neighborhood. Although there were a lot of liberals there too who helped on the campaign. Marilyn Potter and Gloria Armstrong are two that come to mind. Then when I started my high school years, we moved to Corona Del Mar. And my parents lived in Corona Del Mar in 2 separate locations from 1970 until 2003. And that's when they moved to Leisure World, Laguna Woods, which is where she died. She died at home in her sleep, which is what she wanted. And she got that wish very peacefully. I'm very thankful for that. During their time in Corona Del Mar, she served on the board of directors of the Jewish Community Center of Orange County. And once she dealt with her agoraphobia issues, she finally got to travel the world, got to go to Europe, Hawaii, Mexico. She loved taking cruises. She always loved being dressed to the nines, always perfectly dressed, perfectly coiffed. But what a lifetime, 100 years from 1920 to 2020. I mean, think of all the things that she saw and experienced. Airplane flight being enacted, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. Saw how many presidents? I think I have that here. 18 presidents in her lifetime. The invention of talking pictures, men walking on the moon, the rise of the internet. And so, yeah, she really loved being called the Dowager and enjoyed that role immensely, loved what we do here as the Emperor, and always was very supportive. As many of you know, I'm a gay male, cis gay male, and married to the Countess. And my parents, and especially my mother, but my father as well, were always very, very supportive and never had a bit of trouble with coming out or anything like that. I couldn't have asked for better parents. So she was a collector of art, loved art, did art herself. She'd worked mainly in oils, as I said, was involved in the Jewish Community Center, in politics. Was a good cook, passed on a number of family recipes to myself and my sister, in particular ones that were brought over from Budapest by our grandparents and great-grandparents. Never particularly Jewish in practice, but made sure that I always understood that I was a Jew. And my parents gave me a lot of education, particularly about the Holocaust as a child. Wanted to make sure I knew about that. I think they did a pretty good job raising me, I hope. And here I am, 60, almost about to turn 65, and suddenly I'm an orphan. But I miss my mother. I'm going to miss her a lot, loved her a lot, and just want to thank everybody who has sent messages this morning. In particular, I want to thank the people who helped take care of her. In particular, Gail, who I know will be watching this. Thank you so much, Gail. You really made her life a lot better in her final years, and we really appreciate everything you did for her. I know she loved you very much, so thank you for that tip of the Imperial Chapeau on that one. Last time I saw her was when we celebrated Norton Day. Last Thursday, we had a Zoom meeting, but my nephew talked to her for 45 minutes yesterday, so she was lucid right up to the end. May we all have that. And so just to end, I didn't want to go on too long today, but I did want to bring this before you. We'll be back to our regular show. Well, not tomorrow. We have a special tour to do. So we're not going to be doing a show tomorrow, but we'll definitely be doing one Thursday, Friday, Saturday with the Countess, etc. So I thought we would end with the Jewish tradition of saying the mourners Kaddish. Oh yeah, one thing I did want to point out, my parents passed away at almost the exact same time of day, and they both passed away during Jewish holidays. My father passed away during Hanukkah. My mother passed away on the third night of Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year. So we now recite the mourners Kaddish in her memory. Yikgadal v'yikadash shemei rabbah. Yamal divra kute yamlik mal kute bekayakon v'mekon v'hayit bekol bet Israel bagala vizman kariv v'maru amen. Yehe shemei rabbah mevarak le'alam almei almaya yit barak yishtabak yit bahar yit yoman yit naseh yit hedar yit hale yit lahal shemei kudesha briku le'omen kol bekira kol birkata v'shirata, pardon me, tush bekata v'nekamata damin ran bilma v'meru amen. Yehe shlama v'ram min shemaya v'yayin aleinu v'yakol Israel v'meru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'yakol Israel v'meru amen. So until we see you again, stay safe, cherish those that are living, remember the dead, and until we see you again, a gracious good day, and farewell, Dowager.